Hello, and welcome to today's session of MyLife AI Open Development. I'm Eric Jesperson, President and Platform Architect here at MyLife, and our aim is to put you and all of us in control of our AI experiences for our own private, personal, and collective well-being. So today we're continuing on with our Diary Bot series, jogging towards our ultimate aim of incorporating this technology into MyLife. And we're already halfway there. MyLife is highly configurable and scalable to create the intelligent solutions that work for you, your loved ones, and even your professional clients. So last week on the DiaryBot series, we transplanted the brains we built inside of our OpenAI GPT DiaryBot prototype into the MyLife intelligence backbone of the system, all with just some sensible copying and pasting and a little directed content development. Well, today we're going to walk through a number of tunnels together. Tunnels, the pipeline, a tunnelier's delight. We're going to walk through how a request is made of MyLife and how the content that goes in is altered and comes back to you with quite a bit for unnecessary 3D enthusiasts like myself. MyLife is a 501c3 nonprofit member organization that offers its membership at no charge an intelligent AI assisted platform that helps them collect and preserve their cherished memories, stories, media, and ideas for posterity as their digital legacy. MyLife is not affiliated with any paid premium or freemium service. What you see is free, and what you see is what you get. So, what is this? How is it used? Well, before I show you the interface, I just want to share a couple of use cases that we've already been building towards with our initial functionality. So let's say you're someone, perhaps lonely, perhaps in a retirement community, suffering from or worried about memory loss, or perhaps you know someone in this condition. Well, MyLife will help you capture your and their stories. Perhaps someone is struggling to understand themselves, their identity, and how they want to show up in the world. Or maybe you know someone who is. Well, MyLife provides a safe and private sanctuary for such self investigation and awareness. Or perhaps somebody who wants to leave behind an imprint of their art, their ideas, their life, their legacy. We're all becoming quite aware that digital ghosts will be animated with corporate intelligences from the data that we've already shared with Google, Facebook, etc. And that isn't the face to the future. Perhaps you want to imagine for yourself. Well, MyLife is the antidote. It's a first persona accounting of the truth, and bolstered and animated for posterity by intelligences. It's all for us, built by us, for us, and we are many and varied in our needs. So we began here at MyLife by building a headless, intelligent, open source, and free platform for all of us to use that helps us elicit, store, protect, and ultimately make intelligent your narratives according to your explicit consents. AI can make anything linguistically intelligent, including abstractions like a story, a memory, or an idea. For any wondering, this is just one reason why AI is not a fad, and I think it illustrates the type of change that it will have on our society. And we strive to build one that yields more empathy and compassion. So let's take a look at the system itself. All right, so here is the core interface to MyLife. I always keep my developer tools up on the right-hand side. But on the left-hand side, this is our corporate intelligence. You may have met them before, Q. We're just going to log in. I am going to select my avatar. So once you are a member of the system, you get your login. And then you're brought to this page where you have an avatar, a biographer, and a scrapbook. I happen to have a journaler. It's in testing. Biographer to help you create, collect, preserve, and improve and bolster, tell, and relive your memories. All right, so I made a little entry for today. So I am going to just post that into my biographer, who I use many times, and you may have seen this before. And they will hopefully, we're live demoing here, come back with this story having been saved to the database. I did find out where all my stuff was going. There was something wrong with the titling, which I'm not sure I fixed, such that they would come in as new memory entries. We're still here. We're still waiting for the payload. Okay, so let's take a look and address our new story. So this is a story for 0927. Where did it go? I just saw it. All right, well, let's take the 20 for the time being. Is it new story? Yes, unfortunately. Okay, we still have a title problem. But here's a new function we just added, 240927. So not only does it make this memory active, down here it changes the title everywhere. In fact, you can even talk to your bot. This is a mechanic we're moving towards, which is allowing all of these types of basic functionalities to be understood and activated by the platform intelligence, such that if I were to say, actually change title to 2024-09-27, hooray, I'm going to just put that in quotes, it should be able to do that. And then something I'll be showing you a little bit later, as this, in the instance that this works, come on, you can come back with it. It will also influence the front end. So as it changes the title, there may be a bug here, but as it changes the title, then it will also influence the front end data as in a demand or command-like structure. So, all right. I'm not sure that it did, but that might be something to do with my bot. As I say, we're in testing. We are moving into alpha phase soon. I am on the most recent build. Just wanted to show you a couple other ways in which you can edit your stories and your memories that have been summarized and brought together by the bot. It doesn't just take your words verbatim. It creates a summary and opportunity to dynamize, whittle it down to its origins, and then build it back up again. So we can go in and we can just do standard editing here. We can save as per normal. But there's this very interesting functionality that I think will become very engaging for all of us. It's called reliving the memory. So the bot is going to tell this story back to us as if we were the observer. So it's like a parent or a parent or a sibling or a spouse telling a story about you. And as it gets things wrong, let's say, and it will because we haven't told it that much yet, we can make adjustments and it will add those. Oh, it was Sylvia Plath. It was, I'm not going to save this, by the way. It was Michael Jackson. Not sure why that came to mind. But the point is that if I make that update, it will both move to the next segment of the story and also make that change in the summary, or if you wanted to add more detail to the story as it was being told. So that's the platform as we're building it out now. As you can see here in the middle, this is called the MyLife Memory Team. And currently you get a biographer. We're working on the diary bot for more personal, private conversations, to have a space to do that. But the aim here is that not only could you have a memory team, but you could have a creative team, a health team, a professional team. It's very easy to develop these teams of intelligences to be deployed to help you accomplish what you need to accomplish. So let me jump us back here. That's where MyLife stands right now. And let's talk about what we're going to do today. Today, we are going to peruse the pipeline. We're going to spelunk our way through the underbelly of MyLife. We're going to move from the API endpoint, or really the interface, all the way back to the LLM and return. So that's the primary lesson today. We will be, as usual, picking a ticket and executing on that ticket today. I just want to quickly review the types of LLM knowledge that we've been speaking about thus far: static, dynamic, and interactive knowledge. Static knowledge deals with instructions, files, references, basic things that are natural language applications inside of a bot. Dynamic knowledge allows you to attach functionality to those instructions and contextualized bots. And also, we have a NoSQL database where we get to interact and dynamically reflect the value of those functions. And lastly, and this is where MyLife comes in, is that we're creating another layer of abstraction that gives you personalized instruction intelligence, which allows for on-demand management of your options and intentions with these various bots. We provide a level of privacy through thread management. Obviously, as I spoke, the bot teams themselves are an architecture that allow us to capture a larger region of functionality. So after that, why don't we go ahead and have a short conversation about the MyLife request lifecycle. So in order to incorporate the obscure functional dynamic knowledges, the knowledges we just went through inside of our diary bot, it's critical to understand the life cycle of a request that contains a member's content in an interactive dialogue with the burgeoning diary bot. So let's take a quick look at the ticket we're going to grab. I will return to that slide in just a minute. 1 second. Create obscure functionality. So again, this is our GitHub. We will send links in the YouTube so that everything's available, or comments perhaps if needed, just ask of the LinkedIn. But our aim here today, and this is inside of the Develop Diary Bot Master issue. So we are on session 4, and session 4 specifications are to build out the obscure functionality. So what we're going to do is we're going to create our own endpoint. While I'm walking you through this enormous tunnel, this enormous pipeline, we're going to be discussing how we implement obscure as a new function inside of the MyLife system. So our specifications for the first part are relatively simple. We're going to keep them that way. The aim of this bot is to obscure relationships inside a piece of text, in this case, a summary, the type of summary that would be stored on my daily journal, the type of summary that would be stored by the diary bot, the type of memories that would be stored with a biographer. So you could obscure any type of text, and you'll see how that shows up in the code. But that's our specification, and that's what we'll be working towards with our work today. Okay, so with this in mind, and that function called obscure, we want to put this MVP proof of concept together. But I'd love to jump back and maybe ask, why would you want to obscure content? Well, this is a diary bot after all, so we kind of want to make sure that privacy, there are ways for people to create a sense of personality and privacy for themselves in this private input. I want to show you where it goes and how it's stored. So this is a high-level diagram of the request process through MyLife's platform architecture. So let's discuss it. As you put your content in, it goes through your member avatar. The member avatar, as you can see up at the top, stores it in local memory. However, this memory is only committed as a conversation, and that's what we call it in the system, as a conversation at the session end if you consent. The member avatar, having stored your content in local memory and funneled it through to the correct functions, will now talk with the LLM, and it sends your content, let's say your private content, to the LLM provider. Currently, we use OpenAI specifically. We do anticipate and expect and have hooks for MyLife to be an LLM, or let's say company agnostic, a model agnostic aggregator platform. So in other words, yes, we use OpenAI, and we have certain classes and modules that relate to OpenAI, but we could just as easily convert this architecture to just about any generative LLM, generative AI LLM. While there are some bells and whistles with OpenAI, everything that we have here we could accomplish with other models. Okay, so it sends it off to the LLM, and then that provider is storing it. At least let's talk about OpenAI. Stores it in something called a thread, which is inside, or which contains the messages and the content of those messages that are sent between an intelligence, i.e. a bot, and a user, i.e. our members. So then it makes whatever alterations are necessary to create a sensible response, and it sends that as a payload back to our servers, at which point, let's take as an example, you're making a diary entry with the diary bot, at which point that entry is saved. What is interesting to note is that we don't typically in that construct save the raw input that you put forward. Not in this instance. The item, because that item will be a public entity that gets transferred, does not have that raw content associated with it. It obviously has links and would know how to get back to its thread, et cetera, et cetera. But inside that data nugget that can later be publicly exposed, there is none of that original content there. So now that we know where your contents goes, let's review where it's stored, where it is literally stored on hard drives. Two places right now, MyLife and OpenAI. In MyLife, as I said, it can be stored as a conversation, as a long-running exchange between you and your bot, your biographer bot, or your diary bot, as an example. And let's say elements of your content, as I just said, your content transformed with metadata is stored as an entry, an item inside the database. And to reiterate, rarely, in one case we do, but rarely do we store the raw member content. Now we turn to OpenAI. That is another place, or any LLM provider, how context memory is generally developed. In their case, is through a thread concept, where just like a conversation, it has exchange between bot and ultimate member. Now, we manage those threads in a number of ways and have the ability to kind of decouple them at any time, to remigrate them so that if there are concerns, privacy concerns, we can delete and move a thread. And once we have more providers, we could even delete and move threads out of the OpenAI system. So we do certainly have some data controls and expectations in our roadmap. So let's go ahead now and check out this pipeline. So here comes some unnecessary 3D. All right. This is a kind of tunnel example of what happens when you input that red little button. Let's say you're making a diary bot entry. We're going to connect this with the obscure functionality. I'm going to use the obscure functionality as an example when we see the code. But these slides were built for chat. I think it won't cause much friction. If it does, well, I'll just have to redo the whole thing. But let me know. So, starts at the front end. You type content into the interface, and members.mjs, which is currently our front-end master file for logged in members, will perform a fetch command via post to send your content along with some metadata that it's going to attach depending on the circumstance. That may be necessary, for instance, to change a title, or maybe interested to update a summary. But that's what's happening in the tunnel. And let me just go ahead and show you now. I've used submit chat as the example on the front end. This is the front end code. This is the front end code for the submit chat. And as you can see, with some metadata included, we're really just sending off to members and waiting for our response. So then you find yourself at the MyLife API. It begins with a file called routes, and it will pass that route on to functions. Now we're going to begin with obscure as our example. Here is our routes.mjs. So all of our code is modular JS for a number of reasons. One of the ones that I like, especially like it for, is the idea of class or modular code that is not stored. We end up not stored in the instance. So we often create bulk functionality in modular space while passing it references to keep memory thin and as live as possible. Also helps create a number of pinch points and divides where we can introduce intelligences and consents as we evolve. So first thing that happens, your entry, your diary entry, or your ask for an obscuration hits our routes. The next thing that happens, the routes pass it to the member function. What the member function does is it identifies your avatar since you're logged in. Previously in the routes, it had actually ensured that your session was valid. And here we're asking for a piece of information that must be included. You can see it here in routes, must be included in the routes. The item ID, I'm just calling it, there's no necessity for this syntax. I just happen to call it ID. And we are identifying that as a path variable, similar to what you would expect in a REST kind of framework. So that item ID will be processed and obscured by your avatar. Which brings us to the next leg of the pipeline. As we travel through MyLife, the next thing you hit is your MyLife avatar. And your MyLife data avatar is going to add appropriate metadata to the payload that the front end delivered, your entry, your diary entry. And if consented, it will store the conversation in local memory, as we spoke before, and it provides a controller down to the factory. So every avatar is both born from and contains a private factory, which is where most of the magic takes place. So inside of an agent factory is where we validate the request, even if it's just a chat, whether it's a chat or an obscure, it's going to validate the request and position it over to the LLM. So let's take a look at the code behind that. MyLife avatar, as you can see here, well, there's a little bit we're going to talk about later, but it's just in line 529 or 519, this factory obscure. So it's really just a controller during this part of the pipeline. And then we hit the factory. Inside the factory, as I spoke, we do some validation up front of the incoming package. We get the item from, because we only have the item ID, we get the item from the database. If that item does not belong to that member, nothing will come back and it will throw an error. So this is just another point of insurance on the NoSQL database that we're not just honoring any request, we are ensuring that that data request is valid. Okay, so then, as I said, we jump to modular space. Down at the bottom of factory, we outline an mobscure for modular obscure, and this is a function that would be available to any factory, which is appropriate and correct, and you are passing in your instance. Look at that on 1572, the first object is the factory, your personal factory that's passed in. Okay, and the summary that you wish to alter. Now, because this is very specific, a chat might just directly go, if you were just putting an entry in, it would go to the LLM. The LLM would mutate, alter, and create a package to send back to us. And that is a process we've touched on and will finalize in the following weeks, probably 2 weeks from today. But what we're doing here is, with the obscure specifically, we are merely adding on some core, I guess almost a key indicator, which is literally the word obscure. So it then sends that data to an LLM. But this is interesting. Obscure is different than submit chat. So let's talk about obscure. This is the work we did this week. So obscure wants to be I'll call it a baseline or vanilla function that even Q, i.e. the system or corporate intelligence, could affect on text. So in this sense, we don't ping the personal avatar for any personal avatar for this response. We ping a very specific bot that was created for this purpose. That bot I'm going to show you on the next slide, because we go in a standard way through what's called our LLM services. When, as I said, we rely currently on OpenAI specifically, we would create another or a portion of this file dedicated to a secondary, tertiary, etc., other LLM models. Okay. What we did do, we have a general purpose bot who can handle some of the basic MyLife functionality. And that's what I consider this, vanilla baseline functionality, to obscure in a certain way, as described here, a piece of text. So as we built the language out for this general functioneer bot is infused with the instructions obscure. When a request begins with obscure, as you saw in the other code, the following content should be reviewed. The following content should be reviewed and altered such that any human names referenced in the content would be changed to just their first letter. We give an example, and then we tell what to do or how to present that information. And this is actually one that's particularly nice from OpenAI, and I am certain we could move it to another LLM, but I do like this. Response format, JSON object. I also have, in this case, told it in the instructions, you must send me back JSON, but that is certainly an effective way to pass normalized data from intelligence to from intelligence bot to intelligent platform. Okay, so what happens is you send this obscure command. Let me see if I can show you this. How are we doing on time? We're actually doing okay. So let me show you this in action. It's just going to be a couple steps. My apologies. All right. So let us jump back over. I'm going to go to the, no, I have to use the local dev for this. Okay. Guess I didn't change that path. Now, I'm logging in as, you may recall this from a couple episodes ago, my alter ego, the only known false, one of two known false entities in the system. We don't, by nature, just to be clear, we don't allow anything but humans as core members of MyLife. While certainly AIs will conduct business on the part of humans, AIs can be registered with MyLife in ways that can make them importable, shareable, enactable, cross-graded, but we do not allow as core entities any corporations, any artificial intelligence or fictions, minus, for now, my demonstration and testing account. So this is an example of some of content, and I'll show you how this is going to play out. So I'm just going to log in Postman because I don't have a front-end obscure button yet. That's going to have to wait till next week. But the premise is that I'm going to send an obscure command on behalf of that piece of content. And it says that it has successfully obscured my content. So let's see if that's true when I reload the stories. Yes, Dorothy is changed back to, or has been converted in those places to D. I'm actually kind of happy it didn't, with fictional characters, Donkey Kong, Daisy Duke, Batman, Scarface, it did not actually do that. So good on you, OpenAI. But that's an example of the obscure command. So we've got pieces of it working. It's happening. And once we create the front end for the diary bot and assign this functionality to it, it will be ready to go. So let's pop back over through some, some freaky psychedelic mechanic. We will arrive back at PowerPoint. So this is our tunnel and where we last ended up. Sorry about that. The LLM provider. It takes, saves, and modifies your data. But Now let's talk about the return trip. Even with something like obscure, what happens? Well, your your personal content, your private content, has now become altered content, and it's going to travel back through that tunnel just the way you found it. As not surprising. That's how function-based code works. But what happens to it on the way? While you're while it goes back through the member avatar in reverse order, the factory will now validate and parse the response, because OpenAI has a unique response, and that's where I'm currently separating it, though that should move into an LLM provider. And it stores, this is important, it stores, not in the case of obscure. Oh, that's not true. It updates in the case of obscure, such that the main summary and the item summary has been updated on the database, which is what we saw, which is why it changed from Dorothy to D. Then it heads back through the MyLife avatar. Now, here's something worth chatting about really briefly. As I said with change title, though that display, I think it's a GitHub pull request issue, but the premise is that the avatar is also capable of generating front-end instructions based upon the operations it performed. And of course, you need a front end that can react and respond to those instructions. But the idea is to evolve these into intelligent instructions that will then be intelligently rendered by the front end client, who should also be that portion of the member avatar. Okay, so that's getting a little deep even for me. But we do issue these front end instruction commands. In our case, it would be nothing more than showing, popping open and showing the fact that that summary had been altered. I mean, it's like just popping it up, and you will see that the content had been altered. Okay. So, and then finally, it runs back through functions, routes. It really is at that point just a controller and passing the data back. So, wow, quick session today. Hope it wasn't, I guess it wasn't too deep, because we got through it quickly, or, well, all right. Let me just thank you for joining today. This is how we do it. This is how we begin putting MyLife together, by sharing what we've learned. And today's lessons learned, well, what did we do? We learned how to create a generic, intelligent functionality inside of MyLife in the case of obscuring content, which will be helpful to our diary bot to basically disguise, or in some ways personalize, secretize some of your content. Now, what we would love most is, if this excites you, get involved. We need you. We are blessed with a number of fantastic volunteers that are incredible. They're only too few in number. My special thanks this week go to Steve, Russ, Avani, Lakshmi, Mark, Jesse, Jeff, and Chris. But we still need so many more. We're particularly, we found some extraordinary folks with the director search, and I still have a couple to get back to. We are still trying to build teams out from a volunteer structure with security experts. I need some help with the open dev session. Oh boy, it was a juggle today, wasn't it? Clicking here, clicking there. As well as UI, UX experts. We have some fundraising channels, and those are available from our home page. What we would like is for you to follow us. LinkedIn is our primary location as of right now. Obviously, I'm broadcasting on LinkedIn, and this is where we're going to primarily social media our content. So please do follow us, and urge others to get curious and follow us as well. Coming right up, we are in our final pre-pilot weeks, and that means we are going to open the closed alpha to a larger closed alpha. But we are looking for participants. Sign up. There is no barrier right now. You can go to our homepage at https://humanremembranceproject.org, spelled correctly, I believe, and tell Q on the homepage to register you. Just type register me, and Q will lead you through the process, and we will get your registration and then we can move from there. We'll include you in the alpha pilot. We are currently looking for up to 100 individuals, so we have some room, and this is the first time I'm beginning to mention it. So look for more info on that topic. Well, thank you again. Thank you again for being a part of today's series, the Diary Bot series. We'll continue next week, as I say, with the front end. Finally, something to look at. Will it be beautiful? Well, it depends how fast we get those UI, UX experts on board. Love you all. Thanks so much for being a part of today. Take care.